8.6. May I have a motion? By Jackson, seconded by Connolly. Councillor Connolly, you have a question. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Probably just information since I'm a new guy in the block. We're buying 24 40-foot compressed natural gas buses, right? That's clear. And how many natural, on the next report, it talks about 216 diesel buses. Is that our total fleet and we're starting to replace the diesel with the compressed gas ones? Is that the idea of this, or are they just old and have to be replaced, or what's our...
Mr. Dixon?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we would replace them as they come to their end of their 12-year life. There's roughly 225 in the fleet. So these buses we're asking for replacement are expired, have reached their 12.
And they're replacing diesel ones, is that right?
Diesel with clean.
And we are going to phase out all diesel ones in the next several years. Is that the idea?
That is correct.
Phase out a bus, do we, what happens to that bus? Just goes to, I don't know.
Generally, through you, Mr. Chair, the bus, we salvage off it, whatever equipment can be reused, and then it's not quite sure of the procurement process, but generally sold.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon and Councillor Connolly. We have Councillor Ferguson and then Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before we approve this today, I just want to go through a little bit of history. A couple decades ago, we decided to convert to compressed natural gas buses. And then over a period of time, the compressor stuck its feet in the air. And then we had trouble with, not trouble, but we were convinced that high performance diesel engines were the way to go and converted back to diesel. Now, last spring, we agreed to go and spend this money on a new compressor station and on these new buses in the order of about $15 million. And at that time, oil was running about $105 per barrel or thereabouts. Oil today is trading at $62 a barrel. Before I raise my hand and support this, I want to make sure we're not heading into deja vu all over again. This is exactly what we were worried about back in May. The forecast where the diesel was going to continue to go up and natural gas is going to go down, when in fact the opposites happen. I'm not sure where natural gas is now, but I filled up my car on the weekend and I paid $1.02 a liter, and I was paying $1.35 6 months ago. So just doing a sober second thought, are we doing the right thing by going back to compressed natural gas when all the experts are saying the U.S. has never generated so much oil in history because of this new technology called fracking, and they no longer need to import as much oil as they used to, and the projections are that oil will probably continue to fall off, maybe not much further, but going to continue to fall off, and I'm not hearing anything about natural gas. So I just want staff to reassure this committee and reassure council that we're making the right decision, okay, because I'm sitting here terribly uncomfortable about this.
Mr. Mayor? Or, yeah, Mr. Mayor? I mean, who would like to say? Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, diesel certainly is very attractive right now, and like diesel, or oil, like natural gas, they're both benefiting from the new fracking technology that we have in North America. We fully expect to see, peaks and valleys in the marketplace. The key part that we still have today is natural gas really hasn't gone up in terms of the city's procurement. We still have the ability to hedge on that on a forward basis. To do that with diesel is limited. So we're a little bit more susceptible to the peaks and valleys of the market on the diesel side than we are with the natural gas side. For long term with diesel and gasoline, it's really anybody's guess. It's a world commodity. A lot of it has to do with what happens with different policies in the world with OPEC and others. It's a great time right now for the lower diesel costs. Over the long term, it's probably you're going to see the same differential between diesel and natural gas that when we had last year. We still had a 4-to-1 benefit in terms of the pricing Last year, that's come down a bit, but another year or two out, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in that same range.
What's happened to natural gas prices in the last 6 months since our initial decision?
In terms of the city, because we buy wholesale and we buy at specific times when we hit the valleys, we're not projecting any increases in natural gas pricing for the 250.
So it's not going down like diesel is?
No, but natural gas has declined steadily for the last 8 years. So we've basically hit the bottom end of natural gas, going forward. I think you'll see them both continue to climb over time, but there is a lot of supply of natural gas in North America. They talk about 100 years supply with the natural gas, so we're still in pretty good shape.
Okay, but Mr. Chairman, diesel has gone down. Natural gas has stayed flat. And this is the same cycle we went through 20 years ago when we first bought the natural gas buses, then phased them back out, went back to diesel. Now we're going back on natural gas and diesel's going south. I think it's the first time in history OPEC hasn't stopped production to keep prices up. And so they know something, that there's an abundance of oil supply because of new technology and getting it out of the ground. And so it's probably going to be a long-term situation where oil prices will stay low. But, I would feel more comfortable if we just had a revisit of the assumptions that were made in May when we made this decision on forecasting diesel prices and natural gas prices and what is the payback, because things have changed so radically. But before I consider a motion to do that, through you to I guess, Jerry or Jeff, we've ordered the compressor station, have we not? That's been approved by council, but we have not ordered the buses, is what I see in this report today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I just wonder, Mr. Chairman, I'm anxious to hear what the rest of the committee thinks. We should just take a sober second look, based on what's happened over the last 6 months, on whether this is still the right decision to move from diesel to natural gas in light of what's happened in the marketplace, because it's been radical. And oil down to $62 a barrel. Well, I want to hear what if the rest of my colleagues don't agree with me, then I'll pull back. But if they do agree with me, then I'd be happy if you come back to me to make a motion. And then if we report back in January, and so we could see that.
Just on that, I mean, I'm one of those that believe that we got to hedge our bets, get the best value. So I don't want to go all one or the other. I think there's a strategic balance relative to the whether it's natural gas or diesel, and it's not eliminating completely one or the other. So is that not what we originally initiated, was to ensure that we had sort of a strategic balance so that if there are those kinds of shifting of tides that we can adjust accordingly?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in our report in January 2013 and last year, we had talked about looking at natural gas over the next 5 to 6 years, which would essentially put our fleet at the 50% level on natural gas, with the remaining 50% being on diesel, and then having that opportunity to stand back and look at the market at that point in time to determine what the next best steps were regarding technology, because, as everybody knows, electric buses and electric vehicles are also on the horizon, but they are some ways out there. So 5 to 6 years puts us at about half fleet, and it gives us the opportunity to review what we've done and review what the markets are looking like at that point in time.
So because of that, Mr. Chair, I'm quite comfortable where we are, because I thought that I remember asking that question when we started embarking on this process. I never want to put all my eggs in one basket. It sounds like we are taking a strategic approach and then reviewing it in 5 years relative to new emerging technology. So I certainly support the current track that we're on. The other question I was going to have is, I don't know who I need to ask it to, but most companies are going to just-in-time arrival, so you're not having carrying cost of parts within a warehouse. What is our current practice? Are we doing just-in-time arrivals, or are we carrying an inventory that we're paying charges and interest on?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we were, and that's actually part of the next report that's coming up for transit, but we do as much just-in-time inventory as we can. We've looked at the market with regards to natural gas vehicles, and if that's the concern that you have at this point in time, that's a very highly produced product at this point in time. 80% of the natural gas engine is exactly the same as the diesel engine, so parts and inventory are available throughout North America, and approximately 30% of all buses sold in North America are natural gas, and the producers of those engines are all the same engine, and that's Cummins.
Thank you. My questions.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. We have Councillor Jackson next.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Similar to Councillor Ferguson, over the last 20 years, from the regional days to the new city days, my head was just absolutely spinning, from the hybrids to the diesels to the compressed natural gases, back and forth. It was almost a maddening type of process in terms of trying to understand where was the best hedge for the transit fleet, and where was the best maintenance, and what was the most popular that was out there, what was being phased out. Anyways, I found with all the respect to General Manager Davis and our new director, Dave Dixon, to Supervisor Mark Selkirk. Mark, you know, months ago, I had about an hour-and-a-half discussion with you. I found you to be one of the most knowledgeable in terms of trying to have an idea as to what the market has and what the market will be predicting in the future. Can you, Mark, and you knew my serious, real concerns from 6-7 months ago, similar to what Councillor Ferguson's expressed today still, but you sold me on it, Mark, back then. Can you further, these are your two reports, 8.6 and 8.7 you've authored. Can you further elaborate as to why you feel, in light of the concerns still expressed, in light of the cost with the diesel and the gas prices at probably the lowest point in several years, why you're recommending this today, Mr. Chairman, through you too? If I could respectfully say to General Manager Davis, if I can, from Supervisor Mark Selkirk, educate this committee. General Manager Davis, that'd be okay, please? Mark, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. When we started this process in January 2013, and there were some misgivings, the cost of diesel or gasoline at that point in time was $1.10. It sits somewhat below that now. And the statements made at that point in time were, if we were to switch to natural gas today on a $10 million diesel budget, and we could flip that switch from $1 for diesel to 50 cents for natural gas at a fully burdened rate, we would cut our fuel costs in half. That dynamic, from what I've seen in the market today and what I'm looking at in the future markets, is still the same. I don't believe that dynamic to have changed at all.
And so, Mark, you feel and you're confident and stand behind what you're recommending here today, signed off by the General Manager and I'm sure Director Dixon. You stand behind this, or do you feel, you know what, okay, in light of some of the concerns expressed, maybe take another month or two and have a fuller debate as to what's maybe showing on a mapping on the slides, what's happened over 20 years, or do you feel there are more pros moving forward still with this report versus tabling it for now? Because I was satisfied with what you had educated me on, Mark, months ago, and I think the fact that we have a balance of not going a holus bolus one way or the other, replacing the fleet entirely one way or the other, I still think is a prudent way to go. Mr. Chairman, through you to Mark for maybe a concluding comment, please, Mark.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The cost of fuel is one factor in this decision. The cost of maintenance for the current diesel or clean diesel engines that we have is another factor. We'll have these clean diesel engines for a dozen years, and the cost to maintain that diesel engine has gone up significantly over time. There was a point in time when a diesel engine was the least expensive engine to maintain. Basically, turn the key, start the engine, drive the bus for 22 hours and park it again. Those days are behind us. It has a $10,000 exhaust system, which requires repairs about every 2 years. The natural gas engine has a catalytic converter, much like your car, which will be good for the life of the vehicle. We've seen that. The technology for natural gas isn't what we talked about 20 years ago. This is a new technology that's been with us since 2007. The engine's basically unchanged. It's simply been refined. And from all of the market research that I've done and talking to people who have bought these products, they're most happy with the natural gas buses that they've just bought. And some of them have been people who were stung by natural gas back in the mid-'80s, early '90s when we started. So I'm confident that the technology is there. I'm confident that the fuel pricing, with the help of the Energy Department, is still there, and we'll see a reduction. Will diesel come down? Will the delta between the two shrink? It's possible in the short term, but I would suspect in the long term that delta will continue to grow.
Thank you so much, Mark. An excellent answer. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I'm satisfied. That's raised my comfort level to still go ahead with 8.6 today. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. We have Councillor Vanderbeek.
Thank you. I noticed in your report, through the chair, to Mark. I noticed in your report that it talks about these buses will begin arriving in late second quarter of 2015. So if the committee were to decide that we had a comfort level in waiting a month to hear back about the costs, etc., as Councillor Ferguson suggested, would that jeopardize the delivery of these buses?
You, Mr. Chair? No, it would not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if I could just pass the chair to Councillor Vanderbeek, who's the vice chair. Through you, Madam Chair, I wouldn't mind just simply revisiting the issue in light of the new issue surrounding the price, and have it assessed and reported back to us prior to it being finalized. So if Councillor Ferguson does bring forward a motion, I'd like to support it on condition, as Councillor Vanderbeek mentioned, that it doesn't interfere with the process. But I want to know if this oil price issue is an anomaly, or if it's a long-term situation we're faced with. So on that note, I'd like to second Councillor Ferguson's motion at the appropriate time if he brings it forward accordingly. And I'll just take back the chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. And now we have Councillor Whitehead and then Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Whitehead.
Sure. I thought we heard a pretty balanced response to Councillor Jackson and my comments. That it's not just the long term, because you can never predict how long fuel is going to stay at the prices they are. What we heard, though, is natural gas is still competitive, one. Two, the maintenance costs, if you incorporate that into the mix, we're getting a very good deal with the current strategy, and nothing's changed, status quo. I don't want to delay or discourage staff from moving down that road. I don't see, just because we look through a crystal ball and may determine that the gas prices may be continue to be low for the next year or 2 years, that changes anything that was presented here today. So from my perspective, I'll be supporting the original report.
Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I'm just going to put up an amendment just to test it with the committee. I'd like to move that items 8.6 be tabled for 1 month to allow staff to refresh the cost-benefit analysis based on current market conditions. If I can get a second to that.
I'll second that. Yeah.
Just briefly want to speak to this. We're spending $13,070,000. It's a lot of money. I want to make sure we get it right. Also, you know, we get judged on our decisions, how they pan out over time. I'm not comfortable just hearing a verbal report from staff that everything's okay. I want to see it on a document that's in front of us that we can refer back to in 5 years if this blows up in our face. And you know, I agree. We can't forecast what the markets are going to do. But certainly if you watch CNN, they say that oil prices are down for a long period of time right now. And what's this mean to the cost-benefit analysis that was presented to us in May? Because we were very uncomfortable in May, switching back and forth. I mean, 6 years ago, I heard diesel engines were the panacea of transit. Now I'm hearing diesel engines are costly to maintain, exactly the opposite of what I heard 6 years ago. So I want a report from staff saying, recommending to us that this is still the right way to go based on current market conditions. So I put it out there for the committee's consideration.
Any further discussion on the motion? We will test Councillor DeVoe.
Before we vote on this, just want to be clear through you, Mr. Chair, staff. What Councillor Ferguson is requesting, this would not harm 1 month delay. Will still be proceeding going forward.
That's correct. Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Mr. Davis.
So just, you know, the transparent, we have natural gas buses on order as well already. This is additional. So when you approve the previous year's budget, how many are we buying? 18. We're buying 18 articulated natural gas buses. This is the next part of the order.
Okay. So on the motion, moved by Ferguson, seconded by myself, all in favor? So, all those opposed? It's defeated. Okay. Okay, on standing recorded vote then. Those in favor? That's correct. You have Councillors Vanderbeek, Ferguson, Duval, and Marilla. Those opposed? Councillors Connolly, Whitehead, Jackson, Collins. Mr. Clerk? Defeated. Yeah. Yes. Moved by Whitehead, seconded by Jackson on the report. All in favor? Carried. Opposed, recorded, Councillor Ferguson. Moving on to motions, Councillor Collins. Oh. Vanderbeek's opposed. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so those opposed? Councillors Ferguson and Vanderbeek. Okay.